Be sure to follow me on Twitter. My handle is @EmperorBigD for updates on news, videos, upcoming content, and much more. So one of the earliest controversies behind Dragon Ball Superhero was the animation style, because I speak for most of the fandom when I say that Shintani's style from Dragon Ball Super Broly, that loose style, was so well received. A lot of us loved it. I still love it. And I think people wanted the movie after that to have the same style, but instead it was changed to a 2D, 3D hybrid style with CGI. So a couple of days ago on Twitter, and first of all, I want to credit some people here. First of all, I want to credit Anime AJ for posting it. I want to thank Cypher for actually translating the information, and I do want to thank Goresh as well for sending me over the Dragon Ball Superhero movie pamphlet, because a lot of these photos and a lot of this information came from the movie pamphlet. The movie pamphlet you can find over in Japan if you went to go see the movie. I'm not sure if they're still giving that away. They're giving away art prints now, but I want to go into the animation process behind Dragon Ball Superhero and give more insight based on what they've said here on Twitter and what's been translated from the movie pamphlet, so that we all kind of understand the style. Because there's been a lot of controversy about the future of Dragon Ball Super, a lot of questions being raised about, will it be 2D, will it be like this movie? And right now we don't have an answer. But if it is like this movie, and some of you have not seen the film, so don't worry, there's no spoilers here about the actual movie itself, like as far as anything plot-wise, but it makes me feel better learning more about this process and how it worked. And I had talked about how it was a 2D, 3D hybrid style like a year ago, and that's what it was. But actually learning how they did it is pretty cool. And if Dragon Ball continues in this direction, granted, I do prefer straight, classic 2D animation. If some episodes or some future films get this treatment, it won't be so bad. It won't be so bad. But then again, they had to put a lot of tender love and care into it. So, like I said, no spoilers in this video. I'm going to go over this with you guys, showing you the images and whatnot, going through how it was done. However, coming up this weekend, on Saturday, I do have a video coming out discussing the final boss of Dragon Ball Superhero against Broly, and go into all of that discussion. It's like a 20-something minute discussion about that. So that's coming up on Saturday. If you have not seen the film, be weary of that. I'm letting you know now if you're avoiding spoilers. But if you're avoiding spoilers, you probably shouldn't be on YouTube at all, because everything's out there now, especially, not just on this channel, everywhere. So let's go ahead and get to it. So this thread here that Anime AJ wrote up goes into the creation of Dragon Ball Superhero behind the scenes. He talks about, like 2D production, there will be discussion on how to visualize the scenes based on the script, which then becomes storyboard. These roughs encompass the entire film and serve as a blueprint. So in case you did not know, unlike the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z anime, they don't have the manga to serve as an original storyboard, because there is no manga anymore, especially not for the movies. For the Moro and Granola arcs there is, but for the movies, they have to make their own storyboards. Back in the day when they were adapting Dragon Ball and Z, they would take actual panels and animate them. A lot of anime do this. But with this, they had to visualize it themselves. Toriyama would oftentimes approve it, but a lot of times he wasn't even involved with every single shot. In fact, he frequently wasn't involved with every shot. So moving on here, he says, these scenes are then designed to 3D animators who will animate a layout based on a board. So they create the scene first in the board, then they animate a layout. These use basic unlit shaderless models and often include placeholder assets. 3D supervisors will ensure the movement is up to par here, as the effectiveness where the motion is defined. So basically it looks like this. I mean, you see it right here on your screen. It's that really, I want to say like 90s CGI, like pre-Toy Story, that didn't look so good. That's how it looks initially before they go in and, draw up the details. And it's funny looking at it like that, because that's what, I think this is what people thought the movie's going to look like, right? And I can see why you would think that. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. So the next one here, the next stage sees the scene's assets treated. This involves invoking their renderer to create 2D anime effect to make it look more like 2D. Along with additional rigging and fine-tuning. Note the face. These there's a lot more to be done, but it goes a long way in helping the team visualize the scene properly. So as you can see there, you actually have emotion on Gohan's face, details on the laptop having the Capsule Corp logo, things of that nature, but you're not putting in every detail yet. So every scene got this treatment. And I know you might be thinking, man, that must have taken a long time. These movies do take a long time, but creating the fight scenes is in many ways easier using these 3D models as opposed to using 2D models, depending on your perspective on the experience of the animator and the experience of the production team. Because every anime and every anime from every studio, including even American animation, has a slightly different crew with varying degrees of experience and, of course, like a different budget, things of that nature. So then here it says, it's only at this stage, which is right here, that the 3D animation is finally passed over to Chikasi Kubota, who's the director of the film, the animation director and character designer for the movie. His job here is to provide 2D corrections in the form of drawovs. I can't pronounce that word, I'm sorry. Kubota mentioned that he would do these digitally on an iPad. So he basically, I don't want to use the word trace, because that's not the right word here, but he takes the 3D shot and details it out more. So you see there in the background, you can still see the 3D shot. So he draws over it and then writes these little notes around it. So that way the 3D renderers can get details like the eyes and the eyebrows, which way they're moving, things like that. This can be very time consuming. I mean, this guy Kubota wasn't just the director of the film. He gave his blood, sweat, and tears to this thing. Here's another shot right here of Gohan detailing sort of the arches of the lines, to give it that authentic manga look. It's never going to look quite like Broly, and it's not going to, but it's going to look as much like Dragon Ball as possible. There's another shot there of Gotenks with his mouth open, his tongue out. It should not be a spoiler at this point that Gotenks in this movie, That's public information. Kubota's corrections are then passed back to the CG team, who alter the models by referencing the drawings, which is the corrections like the eyebrows, all that stuff I mentioned. Contrary to popular belief, there are no 2D elements added to this scene yet. This is strictly model adjustment based on a drawing. So they just basically make the models look more authentic based on what Kubota wants. He's the guy in charge of the way this movie looks. At this point, the scene is now ready to be lit, and any last-minute textural elements are added. Note the books, the pillows, Gohan's hair, etc. The 3D aspect is effectively done now, later tweaks notwithstanding. So the almost final version of the scene is here, where they add the colors. See how it looks more like an actual scene now? Looks way better, way better. And again, I don't know if Anime AJ will be doing a breakdown video on this. I hope he does, because he's pretty good at doing these kinds of animation breakdowns. Probably the best. Him and Forgotten Relics are probably the two best animation guys on YouTube. Not the only ones, but they do cover this kind of stuff, this production stuff, really well. So, but I don't know if he's going to do it. I have no idea. I would assume if he was going to do it, he wouldn't put this Twitter thread out, but I mean, who knows? Either way, we're almost done with the scene, but we're not done yet. It is now in the very last stage that 2D corrections are applied directly to the image. This involves fixing up clothing folds, seen here in the crotch. There's Gohan's crotch. Some of y'all really want to see that. Along with reducing unnecessary detail from the model's arms and further bringing faces in line with Kubota's earlier work. So, again, it's just more corrections done, more touch-ups. And with the Toei hack that happened back in March, April, whenever it happened, sometime a few months ago, that allowed them to really make these scenes finalized. I wonder if that had not happened, I wonder if the movie would have looked less good, or maybe even not good at all. I couldn't tell you. That's a what if story that unfortunately no Dragon Ball YouTuber can tell you that, because that's too many variables there. It's a maybe. Thankfully, it looked the way it did, better than any of us thought. Now, moving on, he says, Kubota mentioned that he didn't do any of these himself, instead leaving this part up to the assistant animation directors, Naohiro Shintani and Hideaki Maniwa. So, a lot of folks thought Shintani wasn't on this film. and I talked about this in a stream, I think, a few weeks ago. Shintani was on this movie. He didn't do the original designs like he did for Broly, but he helped. So I remember I asked a lot of you guys if you would prefer Shintani or Kubota to work on the anime, and the poll, I think, favored Shintani. But you got to understand, both of them can work together. It's not like either one of these guys have a totally different style. It's not really about that. I think people get it confused. Shintani created the models for Dragon Ball Super Broly. That's what he did, and he supervised all of that. But Nagamine directed it. Kubota, it's a bit of a different role. Shintani works on this movie in a different role than he did on Broly, but he still worked on it. And the thing you have to understand about these directors and these animation supervisors, that a lot of these guys, it's like, you know, like how you have guys moving in various phases of production. So you could have an animator who's a director, a supervisor on one show or on one Dragon Ball movie. Then on the next one, he's just a lead animator. Or an in-betweener that gets promoted to they go up and down, But usually you have to have a lot of experience and respect with the company, namely Toei, to get a gig like that. Because you have to know what you're doing. They're not going to let some rookie do that. It's got to be somebody who has experience. And for those of you who don't know, Kubota worked on One Punch Man Season 1. Like, everybody loves how One Punch Man Season 1 looked. I mean, he's really good. So him coming in, I think initially anime fans were maybe let down that it wasn't Shintani again, but it was Shintani. He just had a different role. Nagamine is not on this film because I think he's doing One Piece now. I believe he's on One Piece. So, and that's really where he most of his career has been on One Piece. So he's a One Piece guy. These guys are all like vetted through like Toei, like, you know what I mean? They don't just hire nobodies. At least I don't think they do. I haven't heard of that happening. Who knows? Maybe I doubt it. No corporation ever wants to do that with a big property like Dragon Ball. The other 2D additions are the effects, things like beams, smoke, and explosions. Yuya Takahashi was one of such effects animators. So again, Takahashi, another guy who worked on Broly, worked on some of the great Dragon Ball Super episodes alongside Shida and a bunch of other guys. And here we have Shintani coming in, working on like he drew over this scene to make the effects better. That's what these guys do. That's when you have that kind of respect, man. When you're talented, you're going to get a lot of work over there. Now, again, a lot of people who worked on this film, I don't want to get into this right now, but there's a lot of controversy about how much the animators make and are they actually worth what they're getting paid. And I covered that actually years ago. Years ago, I talked about that. You have to go back to like 2015 videos that I did. But either way, they are talented. As a whole, the film is, of course, a huge collaboration effort, but I think it's worth emphasizing just how much of the fantastic work comes from the 3D team. Yeah, which is a new team. That team is, and when I say new, I'm not saying that they're new to working on that. They're new to Dragon Ball. That's what I'm trying to say, because this is the first film that's kind of been like that. But some of them did work on the 3D scenes from previous films. Like, for example, Resurrection F and Battle of Gods and Broly had a couple of 3D scenes here and there. The film moves remarkably well, and I think sadly due to the homogeneous nature of 3D, the animation efforts are forgotten. He's right. I think a lot of people don't appreciate this as much as they should. He goes on to say, hopefully this detailing of the process has shed light on that, and people can start appreciating many other aspects of the visuals beyond just what the 2D staff contributed. The information and images here are sourced from the movie pamphlet and the staff tweets. I hope that was useful. So yeah, that's, Kubota talked about this, and Cypher did the translation, so I credited them earlier in this video. So there you go. More of an insight on how this movie was made. Like I said in my reviews, not every shot looks great. There are like 4 or 5 shots that I think did look unfinished. Maybe when the Blu-ray comes out, they could modify that. They don't usually do that. That's more like an American thing to do, but you never know. They did do that with Dragon Ball Super. The TV airing of Super Episode 5 looks much worse than the Blu-ray version, so we could get some potential fixes on the home video release. We won't know that for another 2 or 3 months, okay, when it comes out. Maybe like September, October. But there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks again. Take care. See you next time.